last time I was on a stage in Los Angeles, I was doing stand-up comedy. Luckily for all of you, I will not be talking today about the most ridiculous dating profiles I've seen recently or unsolicited pictures of men's genitals. You're welcome. This will still be fun, though. My favorite living mystic, Carolyn Mace, says, "When you keep a truth as theory, you have the option of debating or denying it. Once you experience a truth, that truth transforms you." So what I'm doing today is I'm going to share, in honor of our theme, the right to dream, my wildest of wild dreams with you, which is to live in a world rooted in sacredness instead of separation. Separation from sacredness is at the root of most of the world's trauma, pain, and suffering. When you're connected to the sacredness within you and around you, it becomes much easier and more natural to make choices that honor, respect, protect, and include people, and much more difficult to make choices that oppress, abuse, or violate them. I know the word sacredness might sound a little nebulous to some people, and I love words, so let's define it. Vocabulary.com defines sacred as something sacred is holy, devoted to a religious ceremony, or simply worthy of awe and respect. So sacredness, therefore, is the quality of being sacred, and sacredness is subjective. So much like the saying, beauty is in the eye of the beholder, so is sacredness. And what I love about this is that this means that anyone can develop an eye for being able to see the sacred in anything. You don't have to be religious, you don't have to be spiritual, it does not matter what you believe in. Seeing sacredness in all of life and all of us is just a matter of wanting to. So my dream, this dream to live in a world rooted in sacredness instead of separation, came from doing healing work with thousands of people all over the world over the last decade. And I don't say that to sound cool, oh, I work with so many people. I say it to let you know that I've tested this. This works with a wide range of people who are very different from one another, physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and culturally. And I've seen it work for people to heal all kinds of things that in a lot of cases, they never thought they would heal or would even get better. And I'm sure some of you can relate to some of these things, right? All kinds of fears and insecurities, relationship issues, anger, resentment, grief, perfectionism, control issues. Any of you? Couple? And sacredness works for so many things because it softens us in the ways that we need to be softened. And it also gives us the opportunity to be who we really are by acknowledging that within ourselves and feeling how good that feels, and then being like, oh, of course, that's going on inside of other people too. It also allows us to turn our deepest wounds into our greatest wisdom. We live in a time right now of intense commodification and dehumanization, both of which are the opposite of sanctification. And for people who weren't the verbal people on the SATs, words were obviously my favorite, that just means we live in a culture that loves stripping the sacred out of everything. And I believe it's our job to put it back in. So, I am an embodiment person. The next part of my talk, rather than just tell you, I want to model and show it to you. So I picked just 5 threads of sacredness to share with you. There's infinite. I'm sure I don't even know all of them. And I invited some of my friends to help me weave this together like a sacred tapestry. This image is by an artist named Autumn Skye Morrison. And whenever I think of my wild dream to live in a world rooted in sacredness instead of separation, I think about this image. So, Monisha, what's my first thread?
Wild dreaming.
Wild dreaming. This is a healing practice that I've been teaching in my work for a decade now. And what I love about wild dreaming is that it invites us to reinvigorate our natural ability, like that childlike wonder and awe to dream, even if things aren't possible, even if things aren't probable. And when I started teaching this to people 10 years ago, I thought it was really fun, so I thought other people were gonna think it was really fun, and I was wrong. Some people got like borderline mad at me for asking them to wild dream. They were like, I don't understand the point, this is a waste of time, why think about things that might not even happen? And I thought that was hilarious, because how many of you know people who worry? Yeah. What's worrying? Thinking about things that might not happen, right? Might be a total waste of time, no point. So here's the good news. If you're a worrier, you already have the skill set to be amazing at wild dreaming. You just gotta flip it and reverse it. Jonathan, next thread.
Compassion and courage.
Compassion and courage. These are really technically two, but I like to weave them together because compassion invites us into our hearts so that we could be more accepting. And most people don't understand what acceptance really is. Acceptance does not require agreement or approval. It just asks us to stop resisting reality so that we can face what's actually happening. And that takes a lot of courage. And when we have compassion, again, for ourselves and other people, it's easier to access the courage that lives inside of all of us. Jill, my third thread?
Reverence and understanding.
Reverence and understanding. I love the word reverence so much. When we revere something, we hold it in the highest regard. The opposite of reverence is to despise something. And we also live in a culture that's really good at despising things. Reverence invites us to treat people's differences, instead of despising them, or even worse, despising people, to treat people's differences as sacred nuance. What's also amazing about this is despising things usually comes from misunderstanding. Reverence comes from understanding. So as we can expand our capacity for reverence, the thread of sacredness that starts to happen and ripple is that we end up with a world where more people's capacity for reverence is greater than people's capacity for despising things. So we don't even need everyone to stop despising things. We just need several more people to start revering things. Trudy.
Curiosity and connection.
Curiosity and connection. So I did this to trick myself because obviously you can see how excited I get every time someone says a thread. I didn't even know what was on. I wrote their names, I folded it up, I handed it off so I could have some extra delight while I was up here. Trudy and I had like 4 conversations this morning about curiosity. Curiosity is so important because we all have something to learn. Whether it's life lesson type stuff or just about different types of people that we're interacting in our careers, in our everyday life, in relationships, whatever it is. And curiosity can be hard sometimes because learning makes us very uncomfortable. It brings up our shame and it forces us to look at things that often we were really not trying to look at, but definitely need to. And you don't get quality connection without curiosity. One of the stories I was telling Trudy this morning was like the worst date I ever was on in Los Angeles, and I told you I wouldn't really go into that stuff, but this man talked about himself the whole time, and then finally went, enough about me, tell me something about you. And I went, what do you want to know? Ask me a question. And he goes, ask me a question. I was like, I literally went, okay, back to you. A little bit of curiosity would have gone such a long way. Jessica, my final one.
Ask different questions.
Ask different questions. See, you can't make this up. See how the sacredness weaves itself in? So let's go back here. There's a popular question, if you have ever done any self-help or personal development work, what would you do if you knew you could not fail? I hate this question. And the reason I hate it is because it centers fear and failure and makes that the jumping off point. So I came up with some better questions that make sacredness the jumping off point. What would you do if you knew how sacred you really are? And how would your ABCs, your actions, behaviors, and choices change if you were always keeping an eye out for the sacredness, again, in all of us and all of life? So that's our sacred weaving, y'all. That's just a couple of things. There's so many more. I'm sure you're even thinking of some that you could access yourself and start to weave in and pull into daily, everyday life in even simple things. So I do have an invitation for you to wrap up, which is just to join me in my wildest dream. Put sacredness at the center of everything. Do it your way, right? Allow that medicine to transform you. Like we said in the beginning, let yourself experience the truth that sacredness is medicine we all need, and see what happens.
Yeah.
Thank you.